Hey, it's Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, Record Store Day founder Carrie Colleton is joining us to discuss the April 20th RSD special releases.
Plus, we'll talk live with our audience, the Sound Up Pod Squad, and find out who still listens to vinyl. And some updates from the Beatles universe.
Oh, good. Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Chris Hahn, the Aggressive Progressive. Check out a new episode of the Aggressive Progressive podcast every Tuesday. You know, the election is heating up just as the year is winding down. Stick with me. I'll tell you the truth as I see it. Download the Aggressive Progressive on Pandora or wherever you get your podcasts.
In July of 2020, in the middle of a pandemic, a solid album was released. It was called Miles, from an interlude called Life. The artists are Blue and Exile. With that, Blue and Exile, welcome to the library with Tim Heineke. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
I said ULB, like L Bug, but more hood like Ice-T, and that's cool like Miles Davis walked in the room and redefined the groove, defined jazz, the mood turn, like the note I wrote.
Yeah, everything that you guys have put together, and even like feature tracks and stuff like that, it's good. I mean, it's like there's nothing that, I don't know why anyone wouldn't say anything like bad about what you guys are doing. It's great to hear. But what's great about it, I think, is that I can't, and it's a good thing, I think, can't pinpoint who you remind me of or who you sound like. So I want to ask, what drew you to this art, and who are your influences that kind of got you guys to where you are?
Common was a big influence on me when I first started writing. When I first started writing like introspective verses about life and everything going on around me, as opposed to like fictional raps. It was Common who kind of like made me feel comfortable, or made me not even comfortable, but like he did it in such a cool way that it made me feel cool to do the same thing,
My influences, it's really hard to name just one, because as the music would grow and evolve, my influences would grow and evolve too, so I guess, like from Jam Master Jay to Rick Rubin to DJ Pooh to Mr. Mix from the Two Live Crew, Pete Rock, Madlib, Jay Dilla, E. Swift from the Alcoholics, and then just like dope albums are inspirations for trying to make dope albums, you know what I mean? Like basically like Death Certificate, Ice Cube, like Water for Chocolate, Common, Slum Village, Gangstar's albums. Yeah, basically that was just part of the dream, was to be able to make like albums where I produce everything and find my guru, you know what I mean, so to speak. And Blue is definitely that for me, and and the synergy just works, man. And I think, man, it's a dream come true. With the art that we produce. I couldn't ask for more except for more.
Seen the fat boys beatboxing and talking rhythmically when I was 3 or 4, but it came out when I was born. I remember one Sunday morning seeing Michael Jackson perform. They tried to dress me like him. Next morning before I went to school, nobody noticed me, but I still thought I was cool. That all started with Michael Jackson. I can't describe the attraction, but
so I want to actually turn to the album. So this track, Music Is My Everything, off Miles, it breaks down and Blue's history of and relationship with music and hip hop. So you have, obviously lyrically we follow that, and it's easy to follow. Exile, with a track like this, how do you, from a production standpoint, how do you, I guess, detail the influences you just talked about, detail your influences or your history with music, to complement the lyrics by Blue, but also to tell your story musically?
Well, to be honest, like I made the beat, right? And I mean, I was like Blue. I think, sometimes sometimes I hear a beat and I give Blue a concept, you know? And so I was like, yo, Blue, I think it would be dope if you wrote like about the first time you ever heard music and then just go from there, you know? And then Blue took it and ran with it and blew my fucking mind with what he wrote. And then I took that and then I laid live drums in the background and I linked up with my keyboardist. And my roommate at the time was a guitarist, and he laid down a guitar, and I was like, wow, what the fuck? This sounds like fucking The Roots or something. I was like, this is crazy. This sounds like a D'Angelo track. And I was like, I was just, I always kind of wanted to make one of those tracks, and it's very musical. And so I think that was the best concept for it. So in this particular case, that's how I contributed to help Blue tell that story.
My auntie dated him, my papa would bang him on the way to the beach. In the middle of the street, banging in his Jeep, playing me Chronic before the radios rocked it, so I was geeked. When I heard it getting spin, and they changed it to Juice and Gin, and nothing's ever been the same since. Many folks came and went, but the legends remain embedded into my brain.
The track Miles Davis I think is one of my favorites on the album, and the reason is because that piano is real dope, and what it does, it also kind of highlights Blue's voice as that other instrument that, you know, hip-hop artists who do it well do. Blue, can you talk about kind of what your reaction was when you first kind of heard the track and heard that piano, and and what inspired you to write those lyrics?
I actually me and Exile had just started making the beat, and Exile did 2 different beats for that song, and both of the beats were just very potent, you know what I mean? And I just happened to have the rap.
I was saying you were there. I was letting people know that Blue was there when I was making that beat. So
yeah, that beat was dope. And he had a flip on it, but he threw it away and didn't even tell me. He flipped it. He made another beat, and then at the end he was like, "Oh, I just like the other one more." I was like, no, that shit was hard as fuck, bro. But and I just had to put the lyrics down to it, man. And it was we wanted to go in on a Miles Davis vibes, you know what I mean? It was super dope. It was a super dope experience. One of my favorite experiences making this record was making the song Miles Davis.
You couldn't blow with Cold Train in the mall, playing the funk, but y'all need to be hanging it up. You cats washed up, cutting with vets and got your paws plugged. Prison guards couldn't lock ours. Get your bars up, bar none. Jay Barnes, get the job done. We could be Siamese twins. Still my squad one, my dude, my
legendary producer, Easy Mo B. I had the opportunity to work with Miles Davis, and when I had a conversation with him for the podcast, he talked about he just came up with he compared he compared Miles Davis and Tupac and how they were kind of similar in the sense where during studio sessions they never liked to punch. They wanted to do one take, and because the idea is like you don't punch in concerts, right? Why would you punch in studio? For you guys, what lessons kind of at all did you take away from Miles Davis during your studio sessions or even prior to it that you try to continue to incorporate with your music?
I love Miles Davis's prestige. I know that that sounds funny because he was on the label, but his prestige was really dope. His aura was really like hard body. And like godly, you know what I mean? Like with the amount of music and material that he put out, and his lineage through his music. It's more so his music both and his music inspires me. Him as a person inspires me, and his music. So Miles's influences on me has been relatively new. Probably in the last like 10 years I've been digging into Miles Davis. But I feel like he's always going to be there throughout my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Is there anything that he's done that kind of, changed the way you approach lyrics or writing lyrics?
He's changed my ear for looking for certain production. You know what I mean? When I listen to certain beats, sometimes I like, you know what I mean? I have like I come at it as more so, from my favorite producers. And Miles is definitely one of my favorite producers.
And Exile, you're yourself on Miles Davis?
I think that he's just has contributed to evolving the ear of the listener, which evolves the ear of the music maker, including myself, and I've definitely been influenced from what I've heard from him, for sure.
So a word I might use a lot with these tracks are they're like beautiful tracks, and I have to say one that really stands out is African Dream, featuring Gabby Ranks and Aloe Black.
Hey yo, I'm African. Although I was born in Los Angeles, I gotta get a tat to represent what my family is. Black skin, black bones, black man from the black planet, black sand, black land. Back then I would have been on a ship eating fish.
Discuss the beauty of and the history of the continent of Africa and what it means to be from there. Can y'all talk about how this track came together and what does Aloe Black and Gabby Ranks bring to this track that kind of few artists couldn't?
Man, they really blessed this track. I came with the raps to a beautiful, beautiful instrumental Exile cut up, and I was just like digging the tune, and he threw me the concept once again for that song as well. And I shot him back the raps, and then Exile took it from there, man. And what he brought back, man, is words can't express, man. Exile, tell him.
Yeah, well, actually, you know what, Blue? I didn't give you the concept for this one because you had other lyrics to this, and I was like,
no, you said it was one of your favorite songs, and that inspired my whole concept for the record. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I forget. Maybe you're right. But, yeah, Blue had wrote this whole piece, and I just thought it was like, it's hard to explain. Like, it's, he has a real childlike vibe on this song, but I personally think there's a lot of wisdom that children hold and that we can definitely always return to. I'm a silly person, but I think just the contrast between this song, African Dreams, and Roots of Blue, that's like the very like beyond his years type of content, and just how he tapped in like spiritually is next level. But it's kind of the polar opposite from American Dreams, which is just kind of like the innocence and the beauty of Africa, and not the heaviness of it all. But although he does dabble in it, but he really, as the music does, Blue rode right along with it, capturing like the pure innocence of Africa, if that makes any sense.
All right. Actually, was there stuff that, for both of you, was there stuff that surprised you, or in terms of working, in terms of each other, in terms of what you were able to get out of each other that maybe you weren't able to get out with each other, the prior two albums?
Man, when Blue came back with a 9-minute song that didn't feel like 9 minutes, that was definitely very surprising, and it was wild to just hear him just keep going and going, train of thought on Roots of Blue. That was a huge surprise, and quite a feat to be able to pull off in this day and age of hip hop.
Especially with the listener's attention is quite short.
Yeah.
Claiming the land man taking a stand and feeding my fam. Back when man ate their children, I'm killing other animals just to nurture them. My journey further from all my people into another culture. Not knowing my brother's about to come and take over. We made it all the way to Asia and to Australia. They made the passage to the Americas after our behavior. Came home and they started making homes out of stone, showing tribes around them how much they've grown. Yo, I'm Norma at the end of the start of civilization. I'm shutting it down. I'm setting out to build a nation.
And Blue, was anything that kind of surprised you in terms of Exile's production going to like a level that you never thought it would have gone or could have gone?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always under Exile. Like, I always hear his newest exclusive stuff, so I know like where he takes it. You know what I mean? It's me who isn't always presenting my skill to him. You know what I mean? I'm always getting beats from Exile, so it's like I'm constantly surprised by this guy like all the time. You know what I mean? So making the record, it was more so like a privilege. You know what I mean? To be able to like get a batch of beats and be able to just choose from them and create what I felt, from the heart. Anything, Exile wanted me to come from the heart from this record because we started off with doing like a trappish record, like a real dark electronic, hip hop record. And then we kind of just flipped the whole vibe. We decided to bring it back to our original vibe. You know what I mean? And once I got the batch of beats for that, man, and my direction basically for the record, it was on. It was on.
I mean, that's interesting. You said you started with a kind of a darkish type record, and then you think of 2020 being a total shit show, right? With the pandemic and Trump being the person in charge right now, and stuff like that. And then you in this album you turn to the record Dear Lord, which is crazy, which is interesting because y'all find hope in all this shit show. How are you guys able to kind of find that positivity, and why not just easily just harp on the shittiness of things?
From our roots, man. Everything we've people have given us, you know what I mean? Everything that we've been given throughout this world, like, gives us hope. Like, all the hope we've been given, all the, how we got here, the story of how we got here is enough hope to persevere through this madness,
For humanity, and everyone agreed we are a family. We agreed to stop eating meat and ban all brutality. We destroyed every gun ever made from the face of the earth, and we disassembled every bomb ever made to save Earth from any further destruction and corruption. And we went into production, producing everything we ever wanted. I dreamed the world had a harvest that.
So actually, I want to turn to. I want to go back to African Dream, and also turn to the track "The Feeling." And I kind of thought of the question as Blue was spitting the first verse about I have a kid to live for. I got to find a way to make him proud, especially where there's police killing children. And this is a very weird way of asking. Has there ever been pushback from your fans in terms of when you guys talk about or address anything with systematic racism, injustices? And I only ask that because I had a conversation with Superstition, and he was talking about his track Black Bodies, and a lot of his fans just push. You realize racists also like hip hop, right? So, but when you talk about actual issues, they get uncomfortable and they push back at it. Has that ever happened to you guys, where like you guys are addressing social issues and there has been pushback from fans?
Man, I believe our fans are like the most open fans, coming from like the philosophy that I dropped on our first record about religion. Like, our fans accept being like super acceptable to that. I think it just they stayed open, you know what I mean? And our fan base is just mad open, I believe.
The crime and the fact that I'm broke and my life is on the ropes, but I got good health, trying to buy high hopes, but you never know. Some people lose a lot more and can't get it back. and that's why I'm torn. I have a huge love for making music to encourage, but now I can't afford to record no more. I got warrants for fighting, and that made my life a lot harder. Not to mention I'm too poor to support my daughter. But
So the Blue is the first track on the album, and the end is the final track on the album. Can you guys talk about why Blue is the table setter kind of for the album, and of course is the final track?
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
Nice.
You know what I mean? I just had to step in with a new intro. I love intros from rappers. I love when rappers rap on their intro. You know what I mean? To me, that's classic. And then that beat had a intro vibe, a welcoming vibe. You know what I mean? For the record, it was like progressive. Like, and at the same time, it was just like, it was reintroducing me, you know what I mean, to the people. It was kind of like our first record, but just a totally different vibe, you know what I mean, for the intro.
And Exile, is there anything about the two tracks that kind of you wanted people to get out of it?
Wait, what is the second track?
The final track of the album, the end.
Oh, the end?
The end, bro.
I think I actually wanted to end with the feeling at one point. And I had to be... until I had to really, digest the end being the end of the album. As per, Blue really wanting it to be the end of the album. But now I like it because it's it's just kind of interesting and kind of an ironic placement for a song like the end, because most of the album kind of has a hopeful vibe, and then the end comes on like, motherfucker, you're gonna rip your face off or some shit. And fucking a bunch of satanic nuns are gonna shoot missiles at you or some shit. I don't know. That. By the way, that none of that happens in the song, but I'm saying, it's got a completely different vibe to it, and it's a weird way to end the album, but I think that's what made it dope. So it was just kind of like a quick little left turn and smashing into a wall, or like a fucking knockout punch or something. I don't know, which is definitely a different way than we've ever ended any of our albums, if that answers your question.
I wanted to end Below the Heavens with a cypher track, so it's always been on my mind to end the album with, just the homies coming in and just destroying it. You know what I mean? I always wanted that vibe. So to be able to do it was like this whole record, like a dream come true,
I mean, we're obviously in a pandemic now. I mean, have you guys? Was there any hesitation for you guys to release the album when you did, knowing that there wasn't any tours you could do, kind of to help push, I guess, album sales and recognition of the album?
Yeah, we were gonna do it earlier, but we had to wait for some kind of records shops to open back up because we did have vinyl. So yeah, we waited until then and then released it. But as far as hesitating to release it, as per the state of things right now, I think it actually came at a good time, because I feel the album offers some perspective and hope, and hopefully it just makes people feel thankful about their life thus far. No matter what happens, there will be some kind of a satisfaction regardless, or if that, I don't know. I'm speaking for myself, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense.
That makes sense. So I have a few more questions, and I really appreciate your guys' time. Blue, is there looking back at this, looking at the album, is there kind of an instrumental on this album that kind of, when you first did it, blew you away, but then kind of still blows you away as you can, every time you listen to the album?
Oh man, so many of them on this album. The End, I love Spread Sunshine, Blue, When the Gods Meet, especially True and Living. It's so many, man. And Brighter Stars, man. I bump that instrumental all the time. I'm so lucky to have the instrumental, you know?
Mm-hmm. And Exile, for you, is there like a lyric that when Blue spit it, you know, in studio session that kind of blew you away then and it still blows you away every time you hear it?
Yeah. Let me try to... When the Gods Meet, that's one of my favorite Blue lyrics ever. How do you say it? How do you say it? There was a message from the sea and the sun, and it was powerful.
A marriage.
There was a marriage. That's right. There was a marriage between the sea and the sun. Powerful.
Check it. There was a marriage for the sea and the sun, and it was powerful. The sea told him, if he falls, I'll devour you. The sun told her, if she flies, I'll shower you. One day they both kissed.
Oh no, I gotta pull it up. There was a marriage for the sea and the sun, and it was powerful. The sea told him, if he falls, I'll devour you. The sun told her, if she flies, I'll shower you. One day they both kissed the earth. A flower grew.
That right there.
That's dope. That's a dope.
It's
lyric.
just like real poetry. Like, wow, that's
why
that one always hits me. I gotta memorize it now. I swear it means a lot to me, those lines, even though I don't have it memorized. I promise.
Latest album is Miles from an interlude called Life. The artists are two incredible artists, Blue and Exile. Guys, thank you so much for joining me in the library with Tim and Kelly. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, my man.
It's for the one that's dead. I'm from the sun to red. I took my father's prayer, put that with what I read, and that's what got me here. Yeah, so forgive me if my halo seems lost in the land where the dreams fall and the angels sing.
The angels serenade you, so sweet and see that you'll be like
and the angels sing.
light to the dark. Oversee that you bring light to the dark. When the gods meet, they light up the dark. Oversee that you bring light to the dark. When the gods meet, they light up the dark. They light it up, light up the dark. They light it up, light up the dark.
I'm Chris Hahn, the Aggressive Progressive. Check out a new episode of the Aggressive Progressive podcast every Tuesday. You know, the election is heating up just as the year is winding down. Stick with me. I'll tell you the truth as I see it. Download the Aggressive Progressive on Pandora or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, it's Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, Record Store Day founder Carrie Colleton is joining us to discuss the April 20th RSD special releases.
Plus, we'll talk live with our audience, the Sound Up Pod Squad, and find out who still listens to vinyl. And some updates from the Beatles universe.
Oh, good. Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.